Wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Welcome back, kids. It's been a while since I picked up the camera. It's Tuesday. It is the week after Wonderfest. I am proudly displaying the awards that I brought home. I have also 3 merit awards, which I am not showing here, but I am slowly getting things back to normal. Like I say, it's Tuesday. I had to take care of some busy work yesterday. But this is something that I always do when I come back from Wonderfest, not to boast or to brag, but when I win awards, and particularly when I win more than one award, my old feeble brain sometimes forgets what exactly they were for and what category. So I make little vinyl stickers to go on each of the awards. Now these are the 3 bronzes that I won this year, and frankly, I think they make a better presentation than the silvers do. This is a silver, and like I said, I got 3 merits. But these are how the awards broke down. This silver here was for the Perfect Grade Falcon. This bronze here was for the EVA pod. This bronze here was for the Caldorian ship from 1999. This bronze here was for the Wee Defiant. And this silver was for the Hydra Saucer. Now I won 3 merits, one for the Cyclops, one for the Discovery, and one for the Katinga, but they are not pictured here. But what I do is I cut out little vinyl doodads that have the date and the category on them, and I put them on the awards so that I can remember in my declining years, I will be able to look back on them fondly and remember what the heck they were for. So that's what I'm doing this morning. Okay, and you want to first pardon me if I sound a little hoarse. I'm still battling this demon chest cold that I came back from Wonderfest with that laid me out flat almost all of last week. I don't know what it was. It came on me suddenly and knocked my narrow butt out. So I'm still coming back from that. But you'll notice that these 3 are plotted right to left, and these 2 are plotted backwards. And that's because I will be sticking them on the back side of these glass awards, like you see window decals done. Same way. You just mirror it before you plot it so you can stick it on the inside. So let's get these taped up and put down. And there you go. Just put the date and the category on there. Now, I don't blame the Wonderfest folks for not doing these in advance. Well, everything pre is in advance. But not doing them in advance of the show because they don't know how many awards they're going to be giving out until they actually do. The open judging system means there could be 10 gold awards, or there could be 0 gold awards. They don't do a first place and a first, second, and third. So, Bob Smith's first place doesn't knock me out of first place. You know what I mean? I could get a gold and he can get a gold. It's on individual merit. So they may have 20 bronzes. They may have 0 bronzes. So it would be foolish for them to do up so many with the year and the date, or the year and the category on them. So and here you can see on the glass, it's not as easy to see, and I just did it in reverse and stuck it down. Let me see. It's easier to see it against a solid, but there you go. So let me put these back in place with their winning entries, and then we will get on to the next big exciting project. People have been waiting for this one for a while. Okay, people, it is time to announce the next big project. And when I say big, I mean big. Here we go. It is, I'll try to do this dramatically with 2 hands. It is 66-inch Enterprise replica. This is the Custom Replicas Kit. I have had this kit in my possession since I think 2004. It was to be my retirement. It was to be my swan song. It was to be my retirement gift unto myself until life got in the way and I got everything else. So the time has come, friends. I am getting ready to embark on this mother of all projects. And as you can tell, I'll scroll. These are only some of the parts, and you can see how much of the table it is taken up. This cannot be built on this table. This will encompass the entire house. I will have to work on the saucer in the dining room because that's the only table big enough for that saucer. I will be working outside. I will be working inside. I will be working under the trees. I will be working with the birds and bees. I will be working everywhere on this thing. It will be all-encompassing. Now, the first thing you have to realize that since this kit has come out in the early 2000s, many things have changed. Two important aspects have changed. One we'll get into much later, which is the finishing of this kit, because, ever since the restoration, there's just all kinds of new, more accurate color swatches, and all the work that Polar Lights put into theirs and that Gary Kerr did for them. I'm going to be absorbing that knowledge and trying to apply it to mine. But most importantly, since this kit was created, well, let me dig through this pile to show you. These are what the kit, this is what custom replicas wanted you to do. They wanted you to use all these individual LEDs and with resistors and all of that and wire up your LEDs. Well, the advent of the LED strip is going to make lighting this kit so much easier, and that is what I'm going to be using. So in some of these instructions, which are dated, I will be adapting to newer technologies. And take a look at some of these parts. Now, you may be familiar with these parts, but not on such a gargantuan level as this. This sucker is huge, and will require lots of work. Now, look at these are the Strobe Timers, and it's a big old switch with a big old circuit on it that goes to 9 volts and runs those 2 strobes. Now, I may keep that because it still works. It doesn't require anything fancy, but when it gets down to the strobe lights or the running lights for the saucer, which is that circuit there, it's entirely possible that I will be calling upon Ralph at Tenna Control to whip me up or to buy one of his off-the-shelf timer circuits for that. The only thing that's going to be different is the acreage. It is going to be the miles of wiring and the size of the bulbs, where I can actually afford to go up and use 5mm bulbs for everything. That'll be fun. I may still yet use some tiny bulbs here and there, but for the most part, I will be using off-the-shelf stuff. Now, here, look at it. Incandescent bulbs. That's how old this thing is. They wanted you to use incandescent bulbs. But here's the note for the tiny bridge LEDs. So I am going to be absorbing. I have been off and on over the last few years. I have gone through back to these instructions and kind of rewrapped my head around them, and will try to make as much sense out of them as possible. But first thing to do is to pull out the armature and get that ready to go. Now, that you may ask, why now? Why now? Well, 2 reasons. A, coming back from Escape Velocity and seeing that glorious 8-foot refit certainly rekindled the idea of doing this, but also it takes up so much bloody room in its component parts that I need to build it just to get it up out of the way of other kits that are rapidly filling up the display room. Let me further elucidate that point. Hopefully in all of this rat's nest you can see my main big display pedestal. On this pedestal I have Carwin's beautiful Red Dwarf and his shuttlecraft. I have my Reliant and my Galaxy class. And then in the center you can see the stand for the big Enterprise. And here you see on this end, you see the shell of the Enterprise in the building jig. And I will be referencing this building jig a lot as we get into it. So, keep that in the back of your mind. But once these pieces are up on that shell, or this shell is up on that armature, then I actually get more floor space to put models. So that was reason number 2 why now. Here is obviously the box that the saucer has been sitting in. I will spare you looking at the addresses or anything like that, but let me check the date for 1 second. Yes, the date is March of 06, so that's when I got this kit. And at various points, this large box has, been under the bed and stored here or there, but always flat, so as to keep its shape correctly. Once I got this room built, which was the reason for this kit, was to put this kit in the middle of it. This frame came out of its other box, and you can see how it is meant to. This will be epoxied into the saucer and screwed down, and this will be screwed into the shell of the secondary hull. And we've got a very nice building frame here that keeps the nacelles square and level and in the proper perspective to everything else. But the first thing I need to do is to get this boy ready, and it is meant to rotate. I mean, you can spin it like a weather vane if you want to. Everything rotates on this 1/4-inch phono jack, which gives me the power, positive and negative. And now I need to figure out if that, running power to it is going to be, that's job 1, that's obvious. I need to decide, and I need to, wrap my head around this with Ralph as to whether or not I want to put things on old-fashioned switches or whether I want to put them on remote. And I think it's going to be best to put it on remote, because then I can leave that all down to 1 power and then have the remote switches inside, because there's going to be buku room inside of the saucer, or not the saucer, but inside the secondary hull for electronics, because electronics are so much smaller these days. So I need to figure out my lighting schemes and my circuits and all of that. But the first thing to do is to get this clear piece inside of that hull, or get the hull measured out, because one of the main things I'm going to need to do is to be cutting out all of the windows. I have to cut the windows out of the hull. So I need to get them measured off and get them cut. But like I said, this is going to be taking up a little bit of every room in the house. So all you people out there that have wanted the tour, you're probably going to be getting your wish, because there's no way I can do all of this simply on my desktop. Okay, kids, and I know I keep saying that a lot, but trying to make this sound as momentous as it is. This is the first step. There was a building stock, for lack of a better term, that came with the building jig, and it is meant to take up the space between here and the post on the secondary hull, so that I can go about attaching this to that and getting all the wiring in it. It costs to do a lot of the wiring in advance, and I don't think I'm going to start that way. I think what I'm going to do is start with opening up all the windows on the shell and then kind of building it backwards from that. But I have not in the let's see, I guess I gotta get used to this term. 06 to 19, in the 13 years that I've had this, I have never separated these two halves. They came taped together. You still see my name on it. They came taped together from Jim Key, and so I'm going to take them apart and see how this fits. Now I'm going to have to cut a slot in here to allow the thickness of the armature, and I'm going to have to cut a hole in the bottom of this for the post, and I need to map those out first. And then once I start making one hole, it's going to be a lot easier to go ahead and make the rest of the holes. But that is the thing that I have been resisting all this time, to actually start chewing into this thing, and that's what's got to be done. Okay, just a quick anatomy lesson. I want to show you how well this fits. This will probably be the last time I start cutting onto this without putting on gloves and a respirator, because you can see how beautifully cast the fiberglass is in here. But it is fiberglass, which means as soon as I start digging into it, it's going to mean fibers in the air, which is not good for the face, lungs, skin, or any associated products within. So there will be gloves and a respirator. But here you can see how beautifully the inside of this shell is. I mean, look how even those lines are. That's takes away one of the great unknowns, is you never know how thick the inside of your hull is and how much digging around and hollowing out you have to do. But this is absolutely perfectly even, gorgeous. So here's what happens. I have got to cut out enough for half of the thickness of this clear piece, plus any wiring that needs to go up and down. You can see this is kind of clamped in place, but there's a center line here, and this will go down the center, and there's reinforcement spars on either side of the top and the bottom, and this will sit something like that. And then you will I'll tap tiny screws to go down into there to hold it into place, and those will get covered over with body putty. But top and bottom, there's place to reinforce all along there and all along here, which is excellent. Of course, back here is where the shuttle bay attaches. Chases to come in and out. There's a chase right there for the wiring to come out from that pylon. What I'm going to try to do is get whatever wiring once I've drilled the windows, and I'm going to drill the windows in this side first, because if I screw up, it's not the common side that you're used to seeing, and if I make any mistakes, I want to kind of get hone my skill at getting these windows cleaned out on this side, so that by the time I get to this side, hopefully I'll know what I'm doing. What I want to do is kind of get the wiring and the lights and everything and the windows on that side, put this centerpiece in, and then kind of work all of the wiring to this side of this center stock, and run it to the junction box up here and all that, so that when I add this piece to the other side, it'll be ready to kind of close up. So rather than working on this center by itself and then adding both pieces, I kind of want to work on this as a, hopefully this will all make sense. I'm still in the thinking stages, but you can kind of see how much room we're going to have for wiring and circuitry and things like that. And it all runs down to these two positive and negatives, and you're really meant to run those junctions out to here for your different circuits so that they can all attach there. I don't know how much that's going to work with the changes that I'm going to be making as far as wiring with strip LEDs and smaller circuit boards, as opposed to what was how it was supposed to be when it was given. So that still is yet to be seen. There are the three little LEDs that go here. There, of course, is the big bundle of lights that go here, and then there's a circuit, a strobe that goes on right about there on this outside. And this is all accounted for, but this is the first time, or accounted for in the instructions, but this is the first time I've really been able to take a look at the instructions and equate it to something in real life, because like I said, this is the first time I've had the inside of this secondary hull cracked open. So the first thing I need to do is to map out where this hole needs to be cut and where this strip needs to be cut out of here. Knock those two out, that way I can kind of close up I can close this up on this armature piece and kind of get a good feel for how that's going to fit. But you can see it's going to be like not even the full thickness. It's going to be half the thickness. I don't have a pencil here, but basically I need to cut just a little channel here all the way back, just a little slit, so that I can fit that in there. Okay, I think we can call the first major action on this a success. I have got the neck channeled out here, and I've got the half moon cut in each side so that I can get this sit on a pole. And you can really get a clear idea of what's going on now with this clear, no pun intended, with this clear armature taking up the full inside and helping to reinforce not only this seam but the belly seam underneath with a lot of stability. And of course, what will happen is that I will end up like damming this with some tape and then just pouring some clear epoxy in there to really get that to settle in and lock into that joint. And it will happen after I have got all of these windows cut in this side and dental acrylic in, which is something that I've learned to do since I started on that Fifth Element taxi. I think everything that I've been doing in the last 3 or 4 years has been leading up to this project. Every little technique I've learned here or there is going to reinforce my abilities to do this. What I'm looking at is the amount of space in between this wall and here. I'm going to run the LED tape on both sides of this so that we can get the light shining out through the windows. And that'll be the next step, really, would be to go in and take both of the both halves and start the process of drilling out the windows. Now here's where you can see where the spine is doubled up, actually tripled up. There is a piece on either side of the central plexiglass, and that's where we're going to be drilling tiny screw holes down through here. I don't want to drill those screw holes on the edge of this piece yet, because I'm going to be doing a lot of manhandling to these two pieces while I'm carving out the windows, and I don't want this fragile. If I cut a bunch of tiny holes in there, I'm afraid this edge is going to become too prone to want to break, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to wait till after all of the windows are drilled out and I'm ready to put this thing down before I drill these holes here. And they're really only going to be so that I can tap screws into this and just peg this seam down to keep it nice and clean. I think the epoxy would take care of 90% of it, but at this stage, with this much at risk, I want to do a belt and suspenders on it. So what we're going to do next is, now that I've got these bits drilled out, there's nothing stopping me from going ahead and putting the windows in. Well, there you go, ladies and germs. The round ones were easy. The round portholes are easy. You just drill those out. When it comes to the square or the rectangle windows, that's a window of a different shape, and it just takes a square chisel or a square file to file out those corners. Now, I'm not above making these a little oversized, because what you have to do is fill them in from the back side with the dental acrylic. But if you make them oversized, you can then even them back up by using the paint mask that I'm going to use, because once this is filled in with dental acrylic, I'm going to paint the outside, or I'm going to cover the outside of it with a vinyl mask, and then when you put your layers of paint over top of that, the paint will conform to the outline of the vinyl mask, not necessarily the window. So I'm not going to go nuts making them oversized, but if I make them a little bit oversized, then I can compensate for any wonkiness in the direction of the window, because it's going to be kind of tough The indents are there. I mean, they're very faint, but they're there. And I'm going to probably put down tape to keep them straight as I am cutting them out. But it's possible that this could go a little bit wonky here or there. And by evening it back out with a mask, it should all come out in the wash. But this is going to be very tedious and boring work. Literally boring holes into this. So probably won't bore you with the unsexy nature of it, but every once in a while I'll probably stop back and show you how the progress is coming. Good morning, welcome back. It is Thursday, the gateway to the weekend, and we are getting ready to do some serious boring today. What I've gone ahead and done, what I gone ahead and did was to square off and map out where all my holes are going to be, because once the fiberglass starts flying, it's kind of tough to see the indents on the ship itself. Here you can see they where the windows are indicated, but once you start, like I said, once you start drilling in and the fiberglass dust starts falling, those can be tough to see. So what I've done is, it also will help me keep them lined up, keep my holes square and all of that. So what basically I'm going to do is take this outside and do the major drilling on these, and then bring it back in with the square file and square off all the holes. But I can do some mass production just by getting all the drilling done at one time. And I want to take it outside because it keeps the dust down inside. So let's go do that. As you can see, it's another rainy day, or remains of a rainy day. I swear it has rained a portion of every day since I've come back from Wonderfest. I've not had one single dry day the whole length of time that to dry out an entire day. So no yard work is getting done. But what I need to do is, before it rains again, is to go out and go ahead and drill these out. So what I've got is my sacrificial piece of wood down, so if I get carried away and drill through, I don't drill into my nice plastic table, I drill into the wood instead. And I'm going to get the big cordless drill out to do this. No wimpy Dremel is going to be handling this work. So let's just get to it. I need to get the gloves and the respirator on because it is fiberglass dust. And even the little birdies approve. You can see the little birdies. Look at that pretty birdies. Okay, enough of that. Let's get back to work. Okay, you've heard the phrase, putting a square peg into a round hole. Well, that's what I've been doing for the last, half an hour to an hour. I've lost track of the time. It was so much fun. Starting with the round drilled out holes, and then going in here with a square chisel to square off the corners, and then once I got the four corners squared off, going in with this flat chisel or the flat file and filing the edges flat. And the tape is kind of uneven out here, but you can see what it looks like when I show from the inside that the windows are coming out pretty square and pretty well lined up. Of course, there may be some fine-tuning of that to happen once I get into the painting stages, but for right now, I'm very happy with how well that's going. I just need to go up into the neck here and get this side fit, and that will finish this side. The round portholes, of course, are drilled out, and I was having a problem with the loose fiberglass fibers in here. You can see where it's kind of white around there, because when you drill through, you end up pushing down some fibers. But I found that taking a sanding sponge to the inside of that after I was done, that kind of got rid of the loose fibers and made life a lot easier. So I figured it was a good stopping point so that I could report what I was doing. Here you can see the round portholes are drilled out, and then the square windows. But the iconic windows in the neck are next, and when that finishes, I'll transfer the same type of idea, taking the tape and taping off the windows on that side, and we'll continue on. Okay, I've got the neck windows drilled out and squared off. Now I'm going to take all this tape off of everything, and see how out of whack everything looks. I hope it'll look pretty good. And then we will repeat the process on the other side. Okay, it looks pretty good, I think. I can still see I might need to point up some of these corners, but outside of having a punch that is that size, I think did pretty good. Now I missed one. I got that one to go yet. That's bound to happen. So let me take care of that last window, and then like I say, I guess maybe some soft corners here. I can see where I might want to clean those up a little bit, but not bad for my first attempt at this kind of thing. So let me get that last one knocked out. Okay, this is a fun view because now we can really see what kind of space we've got between the armature in the center and the windows on the outside edge. And look at all that space we've got in there. I think I might want to do is build some sort of half barrel that goes down the length of this that I can put the strip lighting on. Maybe a half cylinder of some sort here, and you know, a couple lines of lighting here. Won't need anything down on the bottom since there's no lighting down here, but something that would cast light, you know, something like, well, you know what I'm saying, some sort of half barrel here that will get the lighting out closer to the hull. But there's definitely room to put a line of strip lights down that on the inside. Sweet. Okay, and that's looking pretty. And you can see the as thin as this as the walls are on these pieces, you can see that you really still don't want to try to put like clear plastic up behind those and make these window sills, or you know, make those deep portholes. I still want to try filling that out with the dental acrylic all the way out to the edge here and sand it smooth, or you know, put the tape over. Do the method like you're supposed to do, where you put tape over here and then fill it from the inside with the dental acrylic, and go from there. I think still see I've got some fiberglass hairs that want to come out through these holes, so I really have to, before I fill it with anything, sand those things down so that there's no stray hairs coming out of those window holes, because that would just be ugliness. But yeah, you can get an idea of what even just with that light behind it, you can get an idea of what those lit windows are going to look like. Sweet, coming along. Now I'm taking my good sweet time with this. I really want to be careful on how you do this. This is a once-in-a-lifetime project. I certainly don't want to make a career out of it, but I don't want to rush it either. Okay, I've got this side finished now, and having both sides finished of the secondary hull and having all these holes put in is a pretty good day's work. Like I said, smaller, incremental, achievable goals. Not rushing anything, but taking time to do it right. So now what I can do is kind of put this piece here up on this central spine armature and see what she looks like. Okay, I have to get further and further back from the table to get it all in. These ones, I think these windows came out a little bit cleaner than the ones on the other side. I think I'm getting progressively better at doing that. Now I've only got a few more to go, which are on the saucer. This is the lion's share of the windows, so that's good. That means most of this tedious work is behind me. Still seeing some after images here. That is not a window. That is me scratching something. See, it's symmetrical on that side, and I mean, outside of throwing, and I don't think I've got a wee flashlight here to push down the barrel of there so you can see what that looks like with the windows lit up. But that's a good day's work to get all of those cut out. And if you look straight through, you can look straight through. So tomorrow I think I may take my first shot at filling these in with the dental acrylic and seeing how well that goes. But that's another day. So that's it for now, and we'll pick this up again tomorrow. Good morning, welcome back. All of that good stuff. It is Friday, the last work day of the week. With every day in every way, I'm getting stronger and better. I feel better today than I have in a while. Still have the congestion, so if you notice that in my voice, I'm sorry. And the occasional hacking cough, but not as much as usual, or has been. So today we are going to be making windows. Now, since the last time you saw this, last night, I sprayed a couple coats of black primer inside for added light blocking, and then a couple of coats of white primer over top of that for light bounce, because we all know that white reflects light even better than silver, so we use white to bounce the light around. But it does two important things. It shows me what I've got, basically what I'm dealing with, because the gray fiberglass is kind of tough to see visually. And there goes the phone. Sorry about that, but the telemarketers are particularly aggressive today. And if they worked half as hard at curing cancer as they did soliciting money for it, it would be gone by now. But back to where we were. The important thing it did is it sealed in all of the loose fibers on the fiberglass, which means I don't have to muck about with a respirator and gloves today. I can work a little bit more unfettered, and unfettered is always better. It's better to be unfettered. So what I'm going to do today is be filling in the insides with monomer and dental acrylic powder and monomer to make clear windows. Now, you've seen me do this on the Fifth Element taxi, and that was kind of a learning curve idea in preparation for this job. That was, everything I do. I may not see him at the time, but everything I do is in preparation for something else. This is the powder that was packed in the kit. Now, this kit is 14 years old, but this was the powder that was packed in. This, unfortunately, is the monomer that was packed in, and in the interim, it has turned solid. It has turned into a piece of amber that there's probably a mosquito in there, and I could start my own prehistoric dino park if I wanted to. But luckily, I have the fine gift from Elliot Brown, which is this exactly what I used on the Fifth Element taxi. He sent me a small container of powder, this kit, which comes with this small acrylic powder and the liquid. And I looked at that and I went, oh, that's very similar to the jar or to the bottle that had the bad stuff in it, which immediately gives me confidence that this, in fact, is probably that, separated by a decade. So what I'm going to do is use the same method that I have learned from this for this. Now, they recommend putting tape on this from the outside to make your outside dimension, and then put the little, dribble some powder in there and a couple drops of the acrylic liquid. I'm not going to do that so much as I am going to use vinyl, because I have it. It's plentiful around here, is a sheet vinyl, but also it does not have that paper texture. It is very smooth, and will conform nicely. So what I am going to do is, particularly on these large windows, I don't want to see that paper texture. So I'm going to try using the very thin vinyl and see how that works, or the very smooth vinyl, see how that works. I'm going to transfer this liquid into the dropper bottle, though, that was provided, because I think that's going to be a lot more easy to deal with than using just a toothpick and a drop like I had been doing before. So let's transfer the liquid into the jar, and if I run out, I know where I can go get more. So I'm happy about that. But this is all the powder. There's 2 of these. It's probably more than I'll need for this entire project, but good to have it. Let's find out how well this is going to work. Okay, first lesson that I've learned is not to use white vinyl because the powder is white and I can't tell if I'm getting good coverage in there if I use white powder on top of white vinyl. So let me swap out that color. Maybe I'll use some of my yellow and do the rest of these. But it's just a matter of, scooping a little powder in there and putting some drops in and see how it works. So let me back these ones in yellow and I'll get a better idea what's going on. Okay, now I'll be able to see when I put the powder in how much is actually. You're supposed to fill it like halfway up to make sure that the windows are nice and clean. I don't mind personally if not all of the windows are as opaque. As long as light comes out, I'm fine with them not being uniform because that actually will give me some feeling of something going on inside the room if one is dimmer than the other. So like I said, I'm not going to be a stickler to see that they are all exactly illuminated the same amount. Okay, I'm ready for some lessons learned. Lesson number one. We're not going to use vinyl at all. We are going to use the tape. What happens is that the vinyl, even in this amount of space, gives too much. The tape is more substantial. It holds the shape better. This is a nigh-on perfect window. I love the ever-living snot out of this window. What is happening with windows like this is that I'm not getting the powder all the way down into the edging, and it's creating a bubble where there is a gap in here that is no bueno, and it is drying. I guess for lack of a better term, it's creating a bubble in here. This is uniformly filled and uniformly beautiful. The small porthole ones don't seem to be a problem, but in these areas where there is a larger space, I need to make sure that I am filling in the center as much as the outside edges because it seems to be setting up more rapidly around the edges and giving me a porthole effect here, which is not what I'm looking for. So I'm going to take the vinyl off of here, off of the rest of these windows, and put tape over them. And I don't really see it. Now this one I did with tape because I redid it just as a test case, and it came out more uniform. This one here. It came out more uniform and filled to the edges and all of that. So, and I don't see any, I didn't leave the tape on very long. Maybe that has something to do with it too. But I don't see any pattern of the tape in it. So the lessons learned is I'm going to pop these guys out. These guys here, because if you can't feel it, but I'm running my thumb over it and I'm feeling the little bump where those are, and I think if I tried to sand those, it wouldn't give me what I'm looking for. These guys are perfect. These guys up here are perfect. These are the ones I'm gonna, these ones are standing out. What's happened is when I put that in there, the vinyl bowed a little bit that way, which allowed the windows to come out rounded on the bottom. That's why I'm saying the tape holds its shape better. Maybe it has something to do with the chemical reaction of the acrylic happening with the plastic of the vinyl, and that was allowing it to weaken, where you don't get that with paper. So let me knock these guys out and redo them and see what round 2 looks like. Okay, I think I'm happy now with at least the methodology. The tape was the right answer. Packing the material in a little bit differently was another answer. These I'm very happy with. Now it's where things get a little bit trickier because I'm on this barrel shape of the secondary hull. The neck, for all intents and purposes, was flat. You could do all of those at the same time. But for the powder to lay in here, I'm kind of have to do like, say this string where they're all on the same plane and then tilt it a little bit and then do the next ones. I can't do a bunch of them at a time because the liquid will flow weirdly. These are some reject windows, so you can see that it does make a nice little acrylic thing when you're done. But I have to do them in smaller batches, which I think might in turn end up being healthier, because overdoing them and doing them too quickly, I think, contributes to screwing something up. So we're going to do these one by one, or at least 2 by 2. These ones, like these ones you could do together, these ones you can do together, but I can't do them all at the same time. So obviously, let's get started on these. Okay, we're kind of starting to see some initial results here. This is the outside, and I rub my hand right across it, and the acrylic is coming all the way out to the edge. There's no bumps. It's not raised up like the first attempt was. And I'm playing with color here. Now these are the string of lights that I got, the rope light that I got when I found tons of it at Walmart very cheap. And it allows me to go from cool to warm, which I don't know how much is showing up here on the video. Let me go back and forth. That's cool, that's warm, and that's day, which is a combination. And there's also a soft, which is a combination that I think I'm going to go with, because I don't care for the purpleness of the cool lights. The warm light is better. It's a better mix. It's more keeping with the incandescence of the day. There you can see the difference here. There's the cool, and there's the warm, and it just gives me that extra bit of choice. But you can see that it is coming up nicely. Now these are, because don't even think about the positioning of them, because I just have it sitting on top of this rope light, and the rope light hasn't been optimized or stuck close to the windows or anything. But you know, if I want to do disco night on the Enterprise, I can do that too, and I can go nuts if I want to. I'll just reset that, and then I can dim them down, or I can make it brighter. I can do just about anything. The old control voice and the outer limits, I can make it dimmer, which is something nice to think about. So this is what I plan on running in the saucer and in the secondary hall for primary lighting, which gets me away from all those individual LEDs. But having successfully done the windowing on this side, and if I put it up in the, there you can see the sun shining through them. And of course, like I said before, these are intended to be a little bit oversized, so that when I put the painting masks on them, I can sharpen up the edges of each of the rectangle windows. I can sharpen up those edges with the painting masks, and it should come out a lot better, a lot cleaner. But that's all of them for this side. And now I need to fill in the windows on the other side. But I think I'm going to get lunch first. Okay, here is simple warm LEDs, warm white LEDs, shoved down the side of the neck to show how they would shine out through the bulkhead. And I'm deciding on the color. I like that. I like that warm white a whole lot more than I like the fancy strip lighting with the, you know, flashy and warm and cool and day and smooth and all of that. I think I like this simple string of warm white LEDs better. So I think that's what I'm going to end up going with. Now I need to get a whole bunch more of that and see how much I have, because I did not order that when I was ordering colored lights from Paul. So I need to go back and that's this is the HD LED strip from Paul. This is nothing. This is none of the fancy stuff I got from Elliot. That's just the plain old. So I need to see how much of that I have and act accordingly. But yeah, I really like that a lot more. And you know, I may go back and redo some of these windows. They do the job, but I don't know if they are as good as I can make them. So we'll have to see. Now that you've seen the parts that I am working on, here are all the parts left that I am not working on. Obviously, now the saucer is still in the other room. I can't bring that out, and the nacelles are still in the other room. I won't be bringing those out. But here are all of the things that need to go into this big kit. It's a lot different than the 18-inch Enterprise model we all grew up building. So this is all going to go in here at some point. Some parts you might recognize, others you might not. This is the glorious nacelle dome with the inner and outer. These will actually spin when we're done. Those will spin inside of there. Let's see. These are the incandescent lights that I will not be using. This is the bag of LEDs that I won't be using. Like I said, a lot of this has been supplanted by newer technology since I started, or since I got this kit. Now, I did have one fatality here, and that is somehow, somewhere, this got busted off. All I need to do is scratch build a new one. Sorry about the emergency vehicle going by. But basically, I have to build a new one of these, so not so tough. But this is it. This is the tabletop stuff. These are the motors for the inner domes. Some of these things, like I said, you might recognize, some you might not. So hopefully this will all find its way into the kit eventually. Take a good look. These will all fit in. I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. Things like this, these you can tell are spacers and dams and light dams and walls meant to go inside the saucer to reinforce the edge and things like that. Don't know how many of those I'll need until I get to the saucer area, which is not in the near future. Okay, and that's going to bring us down to the end of our first week's work on the big Enterprise, the Dream Project, the Mac Daddy, the Big E, that which I have been working towards for all of my modeling careers, all leading up to this guy, Gray Lady, this lady, and I'm motioning to her because she's over here on the table, and like I said, big kit. A lifelong dream of mine to finish this kit. This was, I've said before, was the intended retirement project. We see how well retirement is going, so it's just going to be the summertime project, and we will see. I really, honestly, at this point, don't know how well this is going to go. I think my skills are up to it. I think I've learned enough to treat it correctly. We'll find out together whether or not I've actually got the skills to do this or not. It's a lot different than what you might think something of this size is going to do. And I'm rambling, sorry. Till next week when we will pick this up again. Be good. Be good to each other. Tackle something huge. Do something monumental this summer. And we will talk to you next time.